Hello, and welcome to this video on how to invoke a machine learning model, supply input data, and get back a prediction and probability for that data. So how do I do this? First of all, through my data science experience local version, I'll go to our shared projects. I'll click on the phone customers analysis. Then I'll go to analytics assets, and I'm interested in the iPhone ML model. So as you can see here, I can take a look at the details for the machine learning model, as well as any deployments that are currently online. In this case, I'd like to invoke this deployed iPhone ML model. So I'll click on this, and from here I can see the deployment details. The name, I can see it's online. I can see that it's associated with the iPhone ML model. But most importantly, I can see this scoring endpoint. This is what I'm interested in as the application developer. We can test out this deployment by going to the Test API page. We can try out some input data directly in Data Science Experience, and we can get a prediction. So in this case, you can see that for these values, the probability that this customer will be interested in purchasing an iPhone is 84.19%. Prediction being 1, representing that they are likely to buy the iPhone. Now I want to do the same thing from an external application. So to figure out how to do this, I'm going to go to the Data Science Experience documentation by either going back to the landing page of DSX and then clicking on Documentation here on the bottom, or by simply navigating to datascience.ibm.com/docs. When I'm in the documentation, I'm going to make sure that I'm looking at the correct version of DSX, which in my case is local. And then I'm going to expand the Analyze Data section and click on Machine Learning Models. On this page, you can see that it describes how to create a model, manage models, but what we are interested in is evaluating models with REST APIs. So, as the documentation describes, this is a two-step process. First, we need to retrieve a bearer token. This will help us authenticate and make sure that our REST API is secure. So I'm going to do this using a popular tool for REST APIs known as Postman. I'm going to copy this URL right here and go over to Postman and create a new request. I'm going to make sure that the request is a GET request, and I'm going to paste in that URL. Now what I need to do is replace this IP address with the host name or IP address of my DSX local instance. So I'm going to go here and highlight the host name and then copy that back to my Postman request. So now I have the correct endpoint, but I need to authenticate. For that, I'm going to select an authorization of type basic auth, and then I input the username and password to authenticate into Data Science Experience. Now I can go ahead and send the request, and as you can see, I get back a JSON response with an access token, and this is what I'll be using on the next request to authenticate. So going back to our documentation, the next step is to send a post to a URL such as the following. And as you may notice, this is the same as we saw on the details page of our deployment. So really, all I need to do is copy this endpoint and then make another request in Postman against that endpoint. Next, what I need to do is fill in the authorization. So I go into headers, make the key authorization, and the value bearer space and then the value of my token, which I retrieved in the last call. So I'll just copy this token and paste the token into the value. With this I can authenticate, but I need to supply a payload, which will be the input data that I want to evaluate against my machine learning model. So to do that, I'll switch this to a post request, and now I can supply a body to my request. I'll select raw and make sure that the format is JSON. So in order to construct a body that can be evaluated by the machine learning model, I need two keys and values. The first is fields. And the value for fields will be an array of string values representing the names of the fields that I'm going to pass in. Going back to our test API page for the deployment, those are the names you see up here: gender, age group, education, and so forth. Next is a key called records. And the value will again be an array, but it will be a double array. This is because we can actually pass multiple input records which match the fields, and we can get back multiple responses. In this case, I'm going to pass a single record. I'm going to fill in the values in the interest of time to show you how they are formatted. Okay, so here you can see the filled in JSON payload that we're going to pass to the machine learning service. We have the first value at the top level JSON, which is the fields key mapping to an array of field names. Then we have the records key mapping to an array containing another single array of values that correspond to those field names. So with this payload, we can now go ahead and send this post request. As you can see in the response, we get back an array of field names, the same ones we passed in, and then some additional fields. As the application developer, I'm interested in these two specifically, the probability and the prediction. So we skip this array, and so the probability, as you can see here, will correspond to this array of two values, and the prediction will correspond to this value 1. So these are the values we're interested in. First, the array containing the first value being the probability that the answer is 0, and then the probability that the answer is 1, which in our case is 0.857, or approximately 86%, which is why the prediction, or the next value, is 1. So in our case, given the inputs we provided, the probability that this customer will be interested in the iPhone is about 86%. So there you have it. Thank you for watching this video on invoking a machine learning model through data science experience.